Hello friends and fans of EVGA, and today we're going to be talking about fully modular, semi-modular, and non-modular power supplies and what the differences between those are. So let's go ahead and get started here on a non-modular power supply. This is pulled from one of our Hadron cases, that's why it's kind of a different size. A non-modular power supply means that every power supply cable that connects to your components, whether that be your motherboard, graphics card, or hard drive, is already connected to that power supply. And they're non-modular in the sense that they do not disconnect from the power supply in any way. These are permanently attached, meaning that you always have the cables that you need in your build. But if your build doesn't use all the cables, maybe this power supply has enough connectors for 3 graphics cards, but you only run 1 graphics card, it means that you have extra cables in your computer and potentially a little bit of extra mess. The one modular cable that'll always be on any of our power supplies is going to be the power or the wall cable. This is a standard 3-pin plug. Basically, it's an IEC 320 plug, and this allows us to sell the same unit worldwide, just with different wall cables. Moving on to the semi-modular unit, this is more convenient in that it will have enough connectors for any component in your system, but it only comes hardwired in this case on this PQ unit with a motherboard cable. All the other cables are modular, i.e. they plug in here. There are plugs that allow you to add in, say, 1 graphics card or 2 graphics cards or even 3 or more. Same with SATA power devices or your Molex power devices. Basically, it cuts down on the cable clutter. Makes it so that you can run your system with just the cables that you need, and it'll have hardwired the ones that you know you'll need, like this motherboard 24-pin power cable. This is an ATX power supply, so you're always going to need this 24-pin cable. So that's why that is hardwired. The next option here is the fully modular power supply, where every cable, including that motherboard cable, and here it is right here, disconnected, is not connected to that power supply and is modular. So any cable can be disconnected. Now, what's the advantage of that? Well, one simple one is if you ever need to pull the unit out, say you want to dust the fan, it's getting really dusty, you can just disconnect everything and pull the unit out. So much easier than having to try to disconnect this from the motherboard and try to reroute it from your system. You can just pull the unit out really easy if you're trying to swap in and out. Maybe you need to get a different power supply in here. You can move it in there with the same cables. Another advantage is that if you're doing a custom build where you want individually sleeved cables, you can do that. So maybe you don't like how these standard cables look and you want something that looks a little cooler, maybe it's got a different color that matches your build, you can replace all the cables. Last thing is, if you ever were to have an issue with your cables, say you had a cable fray for any reason, exposed wire, something that makes it dangerous, instead of replacing the entire unit, you can replace just the cable. So typically, in most setups, and certainly in the way that we market our products, the fully modular tend to be the higher end products, the more expensive ones. The semi-modular kind of in between, and then the entry-level stuff is typically your non-modular power supplies. So that's typically what you'll find too if you're buying a computer from, an OEM. You go out there and you buy your new desktop computer from Best Buy, and it just has some power supply in it. It's probably a non-modular power supply. That's pretty common. And then when you're doing custom builds, that's when you start to see these semi-modular and full modular power supplies. So certainly, hopefully that clarifies that a little bit more for you. We cover every market sector with our power supplies, so anything that you want, any budget that you have, we should be able to cover you with our different power supplies. So thank you for watching this video. We'll have more useful how-tos and questions answered in future videos.
EVGA power supplies come in a variety of different wattages and features. Today we're going to cover the difference between fully, semi, and non-modular power supplies. When we refer to modular power supplies, it is in reference to the type of cable design. On this non-modular power supply, you'll notice that all the power connectors for your PC are physically connected to the power supply and cannot be removed. This type of power supply design is the least flexible with cable management. Next, we have semi-modular. Semi-modular power supplies have the most common power connectors physically connected to the power supply and secondary optional cables as a modular design. The additional cables are located inside the box if needed. This gives some flexibility over cable management, allowing you to use only the cables you need. Finally, we have fully modular. Fully modular power supplies offer the ultimate in terms of cable flexibility, since there are no cables that are physically connected to the power supply. Each cable can be removed or swapped, which gives the best support for wire management and chassis airflow. All necessary cables are located in the box, and you can choose which cables are necessary for your PC. The less cables and cable clutter in your PC, the better the airflow, and not to mention, a modular power supply can really help clean up a messy PC. EVGA offers a full range of award-winning power supplies, so we encourage you to check them out. Thanks again for watching.
Hello guys, and today we're going to show you how to do a quick paperclip test on your EVGA power supply. This is a really useful test. You can do it if your power supply is brand new and you just want to make sure that it is working correctly out of the box, or if you're having issues with your computer and you think the power supply may play a part in that. This test will help you determine whether or not the power supply is in fact part of that issue. So we have here an 850 watt G3, basically everything, power to the wall, a power cord to the wall, the power supply obviously, a motherboard cable. In this case we have a sleeved modular cable that plugs into this unit, your detection tool. This is a small little block that will come with your power supply. Most EVGA power supplies will come with this. This allows you to trip your power supply into believing that it is being powered on by a motherboard. Lets you test the power supply while it's not connected to a computer. If you do not have this, we also call this the paperclip test because you can just use a standard paperclip, if I can pick it up, to bridge the pins in the 24-pin cable and get the unit to power on. So we're going to start with our unit here. On the back of the unit there is the main power switch. There's also an eco mode switch. Very important when you're doing this test, you want to make sure the eco mode switch is turned on. The reason for this is that to determine whether or not your power supply is working with no computer connected, the only thing that you really have for feedback is the fan. If the fan is on and running, then the power supply is on and running and likely working just fine. If you turn the eco mode on, the fan will remain off unless there's enough load or temperature in this unit that it needs to turn on its fan. So for the test, it's kind of a moot point if you have that turned on. We want to leave it off. So first things first, we're going to plug it into the wall, but we are going to leave it switched off. Power, and then plug it in to the 3-prong back. Okay, eco mode is already off, power supply is off. The 24-pin cable on the motherboard side is 24-pin connector. Industry standard, it's going to be the same on any ATX power supply. On most of our power supplies, the other end is going to be this 18-pin and 10-pin arrangement. If you're not sure what yours uses, you should have a manual. It'll tell you how to connect it properly. So we're going to connect the motherboard cable here and here. Now you need to have the cable connected in order to make this test work. The reason being is that within the 24-pin cable and within that ATX standard, there is a power on circuit. If that power on circuit is grounded, then the unit will think that a motherboard is telling it to turn on. So if we plug in our tool here, it goes right over that 24-pin cable, like so. Nice click. If we turn on this unit, you'll see that immediately the fan starts to spin and stays spinning. So if there is an issue where the voltages are out of range, the unit should be able to detect that and not allow itself to turn on. So the fact that the unit is on, fan is running, staying running, that's a good sign. In eco mode, you'll watch that the fan turns off, so we can't really tell whether or not the unit is working. Eco mode back off, fan starts to spin. Turn the unit off, obviously the fan turns off. So we're going to do this the other way now, and that's without having the tool available. We're just going to use the paperclip. So on this, we're going to take our connector with the clip to the top. We're going to count 4 pins in, and then the number 4 and the number 5 pin here, we're going to connect those. I believe those are 15 and 16 if you're actually counting relative to the ATX standard. So let me bend my paper clip here. You want to connect the pins as a circuit, so you need to get the wires straightened out. That should work for us here. Connect to the 1 pin. Now the two are connected, so the circuit between the two should be closed. Not very pretty, but it doesn't need to be. And if I flip on the power to the unit, you'll see immediately the fan starts to spin and stays spinning. So you can see this tool and the paperclip do effectively the same thing. It's not dangerous to touch the paperclip at all because it's a very low powered circuit that you're grounding. You are technically turning on the rest of the cable, but the most that you have in there is 12 volts. So for the most part, it's not a big issue. 12 volt direct current. At any rate, that shows you just quickly how you're going to test your power supply. This is very common if you're running into issues or if you just want to test it brand new. If you have any other questions or concerns with your power supply, we do offer 24/7 support here in the US, and the contact information is on our website, evga.com. Service and contact us. Bye-bye.
Today we are going to look at power supply efficiency and why it is important. The 80+ Power Supply Certification Program indicates what level of efficiency the power supply has. The higher the efficiency, the better the power supply is at converting AC to DC power and less power wasted, resulting in lower power consumption overall. In order for a power supply to be part of the 80+ program, it must be at least 80% efficient or better at all load levels. You may notice that some power supplies come with different ratings, such as 80+ bronze, gold, platinum, or even titanium. This indicates the efficiency level. 80+ gold indicates a 90% or better efficiency level at 50% load, and the highest rating, titanium, indicates a 94% efficient design at 50% load. Power supplies with higher efficiencies use better internal components, reduce overall power consumption, and also reduce the amount of heat generated by the power supply. When shopping for your next power supply, make sure to check the 80+ rating to ensure you are getting an efficient power supply. The EVGA 1200 P2 power supply has arrived. This is a 1200 watt platinum rated power supply that offers a full 10-year warranty from EVGA. This power supply is also based upon the same award-winning designs as some of the other P2 and G2 models. So let's go ahead and open up the box and see what we get right on the inside. So one of the first things you'll notice here is we have a pouch. This is a small carrying bag that allows you to store any additional cables that may not be used. This power supply is a fully modular design, so you see we have quite a few cables here. So let's go ahead and go through these in detail and see what we have. First connector here we have is the 24-pin power connector. We also have 6 VGA connectors here. These are 8-pin VGA connectors, a total of 8 connectors here for your graphics cards. We also have 2 8-pin power connectors for your CPU. And we have 2 Molex cables here with 3 connectors on each wire. Next up, we have 4 SATA cables here. Each of these have 3 connectors on it, so a total of 12 SATA connectors. And lastly, the power cable, of course. This is a 14-gauge power cable. Next up, we have a couple of tie wraps here. This will help keep your cables nice and tidy inside your system. And of course, the screws are also included. Now before we take a look at the power supply itself, you'll notice on top here there is a manual. This tells you everything you need to know about the power supply, how to set it up, and some of the specs on it as well. And here is the power supply. It comes in a nice sleeve, and here it is. This power supply can put out a total of 99.9 amps on the plus 12 volt rail. It is a single 12 volt rail. Plenty of power for your graphics cards, even 3-way, 4-way SLI setups as well. This power supply is a fully modular design. You will see that there is no cables coming out of the power supply. Those are all optional. It helps keep your cables nice in your system by only using what you need. Of course, the power connector there. We also have a feature called Eco Mode. Now what that does is, by default, it comes on the off position. If you flip it to the on position, the fan will only turn on when the power supply gets above a certain temperature. So basically the fan will run as a semi-passive fan. As mentioned, this is a platinum rated power supply, which means it's 92% efficient under a 115 VAC. For those of you looking for a bit more unique look, this power supply does support the EVGA individually sleeved cables, such as this one here. Plugs directly into the back of the power supply just like this, and they are available in white, red, black, and blue, and available separately. And there you have it, the EVGA 1200 P2 power supply. For more information on this product, please visit the dedicated EVGA power supply website at www.evga.com/PSU. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. The new titanium-rated EVGA SuperNOVA T2 power supplies are now available in 750, 850, and 1000 watt versions. These new power supplies offer a fully modular design for the best cable flexibility and cased airflow, a single 12 volt rail offering up to 83 amps, a full DC to DC design for improved efficiency, and 100% Japanese solid-state capacitors for the ultimate in reliability. Of course, full SLI support allowing you to pair up 2 or more graphics cards for extreme gaming performance. Not to mention a titanium rating which offers 94% efficiency or higher, and a full 10-year warranty backed by EVGA support. Of course, these new models also support EVGA Eco Mode, which keeps the power supply completely silent under low to medium loads and low noise levels during higher levels of load. Nothing beats titanium with the EVGA SuperNOVA 750, 850, and 1000 T2 power supplies. The EVGA SuperNOVA 850 G2 and 750 G2 power supplies are now available. Both of these power supplies use the latest architecture from EVGA and bring new features along with excellent efficiency. There are quite a few reviews around the web on both of these power supplies, so in this video we're going to focus primarily on what you get inside the box and some of the unique features. The biggest difference between these two units is the wattage, so today we're going to be unboxing the 850 watt version. So let's go ahead and get this box open. So the first thing you'll see right on top here is a small little bag here. This is to store any additional cables. This is a fully modular power supply design, so any cables you don't need you can put right inside that bag. The first cable we have here is the power cable. This is the cable that goes from the power supply to the wall. It is a 16 gauge wire. Next up we have one of the power connectors for graphics card. This is a 6+2 power connector, so you can connect to either a 6-pin or an 8-pin graphics card ports. Here we have another VGA connector. Here is a couple of Molex connectors. Those would be for powering hard drives or perhaps a water pump. We also have the CPU power connector. This is a 4+4 design, so it can support either an 8-pin or a 4-pin CPU power. Of course, we also have the ATX power connector. Next up, we have serial ATA power connectors. Chances are you will need a couple of these. And we have another CPU power connector. And it looks like we have another 2 VGA power connectors, and lastly another SATA power connector. So certainly should be enough connectors to power all your devices. We also have a Molex to floppy power connector. Chances are you're probably not going to need that, but it is included just in case. We have a couple of screws here to mount the power supply to your chassis. This is a simple power supply tester. What it does is shorts the power supply so it can run without being plugged into a motherboard. It's good for testing, or if you need to run the power supply for any reason without it plugged into a motherboard, that is what you'll need to use. Here we have a couple of tie wraps. These can keep your cables nice and tidy when you put it in your machine. Of course, having good cable management not only looks great, but is important to the airflow in your case. And here it is, the power supply itself. So on top here we have a manual. Of course, this will tell you everything you need to get up and running with the power supply. And here's the power supply. As previously mentioned, this is a fully modular design, so you can pick and choose any cables that are needed. It really helps eliminate cable clutter. It has a 140mm double ball bearing fan, and it also has a switch on the back here that's called Eco Mode. Now what that does is allow the fan to shut off when this power supply is under low load. So it can operate as a semi-passive power supply design. By default, that comes in the off position. If you want to enable the semi-passive function, just flip the switch to the on position and the fan will stay off most of the time when it is running. And lastly, this power supply has a single 12-volt rail that offers nearly 71 amps on that rail, so it is compatible with nearly every single graphics card out there, including SLI mode. So there you have it, the EVGA 850G2 and 750G2 power supplies. As mentioned previously, there is a number of reviews on these power supplies out and about the web, so I encourage you to go check those out for more in-depth reviews. For more information on this product, please visit the EVGA website at www.evga.com/PSU. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Hi, this is Mike with EVGA, and today I'd like to show you about the 500 watt and 430 watt 80 plus certified power supplies. Now these power supplies provide at least 80% efficiency to your powered components and come with a standard 3-year warranty. These power supplies provide a nice budget price to give you the connections and protections needed to build a standard or basic system on a budget. Now let's take a look at some of the further features that both these models have to offer. Now the 430 watt here is a great standard form factor power supply supporting active PFC. This provides 34 amps on the 12 volt rail and will be great for just about any application for your standard or single graphic card solution. Inside the box here you'll see that we have our safety as well as warranty information, and opening up here we kind of give a brief overview on how to connect up your power components to your system with your new power supply and giving you the technical specifications on the power supply and what it offers and what it supports. 500 watt here, a little bit stronger, giving you a little bit more watts, as well as on the 12 volt rail. This will support up to 40 amps on the 12 volt rail, so it gives you a little bit more horsepower for your GPU, as well as an additional power connection, which we'll get to here shortly. Taking a look at this, here's the 500 watt. It's a nice sleek black case, fit great just about any system. Low profile form factor. It's got a great power switch location on it here, standard 4 screws in the back. We'll look inside the box. We got our power cable here. We got our set screws here for our case. 430, very similar. Basically just a little brother to the 500. Same type of case, same design. These units both support a 120mm fan on them, so they give ultra quiet performance, and same type of sleek look as far as the casing goes. Let's take a little bit further of a look into the hardline cables and what it has to offer to give you some more details. Now let's compare the 500 watt to the 430 watt besides just the wattage. 500 watts, 430, 34 amps, 40 amps. So let's take a look at the cables. Right here you'll see the EPS 4+4 pin CPU power connections are pretty standard on both. Looking at our serial ATA power connections here, you'll see that the 500 watt gives you 2 triple and the 430 watt gives you 2 double. So you'll get 6 serial ATA power on the 500, where the 430 will come with 4. So, if you're looking for a little bit more for the hard drive optical drives, the 500 watt might be for you. Looking at our Molex connections, pretty standard here with 2 triple Molex plus floppy. pretty standard. And then looking at our PCIe power connections, the 430 watt comes with a 6-pin plus 2-pin to give you that 8-pin connection or single 6-pin connection, where the 500 watt will give you 2 6-pin plus 2s, giving you either a single 8 and a 6 for a higher end graphics card, or 2 6-pins to allow you to run 2 graphics card, or a single graphics card that requires 2 6-pin power connections. So this could be a big deal for you on the 500 watt versus the 430, so definitely keep that in mind. And then looking at our standard 20 plus 4-pin connection, they're pretty standard, 20 plus 4-pin power connections. So there you have it, the 500 watt and the 430 watt white. These are 80 plus rated. These provide 80% efficiency, standard 3-year warranty, ultra quiet fan, and you can find more information on this and more at evga.com/PSU.
Hello everyone, it's Joseph with EVGA, and today I've got something really exciting to show you. It's something I'm particularly excited about, and that is our 650 GM power supply, part of the GM PSU line that's available now. This is a small form factor power supply, and a lot of people have been waiting for this for a while, so I'm going to go ahead and pop this open and show you some of the accessories, and then also go over some of the major features. First thing, you're going to have normal product manual, an AC power cable, the power supply tester that we always include, the modular cables, and this is an ATX bracket, so if you do have a power supply that is, or if you have a case that's an ATX standard, you can use this to install the power supply into a normal ATX size case, so that gives you greater compatibility. And then of course, we have the power supply itself. Now this thing is really small. It's really cool. One of the great things is, they come in the variants of 450 watts, 550 watts, and 650 watts. 650 watts is a lot of power to pack into a small form factor like this. And hopefully you can get a good look there. Now this is fully modular, so that helps when you're in a tight space-saving configuration. This does support SLI if you're running 2 graphics cards. This is the first power supply to feature something called Auto Eco Mode. Now we have had power supplies in the past that do have something called Eco Mode. Normally you're going to see a little little switch near the power switch here on the back, where you can turn it on or off. Auto Eco Mode actually is just the Eco Mode is automatically on. So in an idle, low power situation, you are going to have no fan making any noise. It's completely silent. But then when you apply greater load or higher temperature to the power supply, it will turn on the fan automatically. This also does feature 100% Japanese capacitors, really high quality, and it is gold efficiency rating. That tends to be the more popular efficiency rating, and it's a really nice in between there. I did want to compare this to one of our normal 650 watt power supplies. And this is normally a pretty compact unit. It's a 650G Plus power supply. This is another gold rated power supply. But look at that size difference, right? You have quite a bit of power, same amount of power, but packed into a much smaller form factor. So, like I said, I'm really excited about this power supply. So thank you for joining us in this quick unboxing and product overview. Go ahead and check out our website if you want to see more details on the 650, 550, or 450 watt GM power supplies. We're really excited to bring you these particular models. Have a nice day.
The EVGA SuperNOVA G3 power supplies are here. These new power supplies offer the next generation in performance and features with a smaller size at only 150 millimeters long, making them some of the smallest high-performance power supplies on the market today. A new hydraulic dynamic bearing fan offers better performance, quieter operation, and a longer lifespan, along with EVGA Eco Mode giving you absolutely no noise at low to medium loads. These designs take the already efficient G2 series and make them even better with improved power efficiency and lower ripple. These power supplies are over 91% efficient. Of course, a fully modular design along with EVGA's award-winning 7 and 10-year warranties mean the new G3 series power supplies are some of the best power supplies on the market.